Hello, welcome back to our highlights and spotlights of Scholé groups. And so, as we know, we are unified together as Scholé groups, but each of us have the opportunity to tailor our Scholé groups to our own communities and serve our communities in the way that we need to do and we are called to do. And so, we would like to talk about how we are all in harmony together, but we are all each individual and are able to use Scholé groups as a whole community for our own needs and purposes. And
Mm.
so I would like to open with a quote from Romans, which is, "May the God of endurance and encouragement grant you to live in such harmony with one another, in accord with Christ Jesus, together, that you may with one voice glorify the God and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ." And that's from Romans 15, verses 5 through 6.
Mm.
And so today we are here. I am Lisa Mayeux with Sanctus Spiritus Scholé, and we have with us as our guest Jennifer Dow with Paideia Fellowship. And I'll go ahead and let her finish introducing herself and talk a little bit about her group.
Yes. Hey, well, thanks for having me on. Um, so my name's Jennifer Dow. I started Paideia Fellowship back in 2013, I think it was. It's 7 years ago. Uh, is that the right math? Yeah, I think that's the right math. When I first started it, it was this was before Scholé groups, and but it was in my garage, just two people. Like our at that time, our me and one other person, our husbands had lost their jobs, and we were like, we can't afford TC anymore. And, how are we? That's our world. What are we going to do? And so we just ended up coming together and saying, hey, okay, we have to do something because we have to have community. And so we met in my garage and turned it into like a schoolroom slash art studio. And we did art and we did lost tools of writing and we just hung out. And that's how it started. And as we kept going, and I had been homeschooling since 2009, but one thing I had noticed about myself is that I just do better if I have community. Like I have to have community. Um, People I get together with once a week that were really actually doing academics together, and it just holds me accountable. I'm a better homeschool mom when I do that, and so, but I also am an idealist, and I wanted it to look a certain way. So the need for accountability and my idealism came together, and I'm like, we're starting something because I don't know what, I wanted it to be thoroughly classical in the liberal arts sense, and there wasn't anything like that. So we started it.
That's such a lovely story. And I think so many of us are in that at that point right now, people living in either in cities or in remote areas and just really want to come together to form some community and a learning group that is with like-minded people. So
Mhm.
I think that that's so important, that harmony and like-mindedness, that single-mindedness that St. Paul talks
Mhm.
about is so important. And so what is that single-mindedness and purpose of your group, Jennifer?
So our point of unity is to coach the skills of the language liberal arts and behold the true good and beautiful content together. So it's very academic focused. We're coaching. Yeah, that's our central point of unity. We're ecumenical. So um, you know eh, we're we're Christian, but we don't ascribe to a specific denomination. But that we really just come around the liberal arts, coaching those skills. So yeah.
So the traditions that you hold are an ecumenical tradition to the
Mhm.
Apostles' Creed, and then also to the liberal arts tradition.
Yeah.
Um, so for people who are, you're in North Carolina, correct?
Yes.
So, but online. So if
Mhm.
anyone is looking for that type of environment that doesn't have the community where they are, it's certainly an option for them to contact you with Paideia
Yes.
Fellowship.
Yeah. We serve 7th through 12th graders. And so we decided to not do younger kids online. We just didn't feel like that worked very well. And we actually decided to go online before COVID hit or anything. And so we really like it. It's a lot of fun, and it's cool to connect with people all over the country.
So your campus is online.
Mhm.
And what do your community days look like when you meet up?
Yeah, so because we're online, we have more flexibility. And so we meet for between an hour and an hour and a half, 4 days a week. So, and then we have, have that fifth day off, and of course the weekend. So we have a whole program. So rather than just pieced together classes, we have our middle school humanities program and our high school humanities program. And that includes literature, history, writing, oratory, and logic. And so we teach all of those things in an integrated way in the program. So you sign up for one program and you get all of that in terms of, if you're going to put it on a transcript, you could say all of those things. The writing in middle school looks, more like narrations and introductory essays, and then in high school it's rhetoric. But yeah, so we integrate those together.
So when they come together in community online,
Mhm.
what does their day look like?
Yeah, so we usually open up with a prayer or something like that, and then um, I remember. Sorry, why I answered it that way, because we have all of those aspects to our program. We devote one day to each of those. So usually Monday is writing day, and then Tuesday is literature. Wednesday is history, and then on Thursday we alternate logic and oratory. So that's instruction time, discussion time, share time, and then they're given assignments in an online space. We use Canvas, so we can track their assignments. They can turn things in. We can actually further the discussion. So there's discussion boards, so they even continue overflow into that space as well.
That's great, because we know when we get started talking in class, we don't always get to all the points,
Right.
and they like to go ahead and tangent on some points that are really super valuable, but then there's other
Right.
things that they don't get to that they would like to unpack.
And some students, I've loved doing this, and I will always do this now, because there are some students who don't speak up much in class, or they're not as confident or skilled in speaking and in online discussion in the written form. I'm just blown away. I'm like, wow, that was amazing. I appreciate your thoughts, like you're sharing with the world. And so I like giving the opportunity for people to be themselves and express themselves in the way that seems to be in alignment with them. Obviously, I still push them and challenge them to level up in all the areas, but it's really nice to have that comfortable space of, oh, this is my natural inclination where I like to really use words, and to have that, I think, is beautiful.
That is beautiful. It gives them a voice in a place that they can grow
Mhm.
into the other skills
Right.
without being intimidated, and that comfortable space, that safe
Mhm.
space for them.
Right.
So you probably all realize this, but at this point, the academic style of your group, it is an all-inclusive group. Is that correct? Not a cooperative.
Yes. Yes. So we do have the teachers who teach the content and assess the work. So we take care of it all.
Okay, and so
Other than, like, we send a type of transcript, but obviously homeschool moms are the main one, so they have to officially put things together on that end. But yeah,
yeah, so that's tuition based,
it
correct?
is.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. So about how many families and students do you have in your classes?
So this year we had a smaller group this year, and we had about 12 to 15 students, so a smaller class. And then I think that's about 10 families.
That's great. That's
Mhm.
I can't talk, but small groups are kind of a little bit of a passion and a soft spot for me, because that's what we have a small
Mhm.
group and we love our small group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of intimacy that's built, and
Yeah.
that yeah. And I think especially in the online environment, if I don't think I would allow a class to go bigger than 16.
Mm.
Um, just because you lose the ability to cultivate that intimacy.
Yeah. Well, and so also I wanted to encourage groups out there, or people who are looking to start a group. Don't be intimidated by starting a group and having a
Right.
small group, because small groups are wonderful
They
and
really are.
large groups are great too. But don't be of the mindset that you have to have this huge group of people in order to have a community. That's not that's false.
Exactly. Yeah. That's yeah, absolutely. Second that.
So let's see. So is there any particular traditions that you practice in your community? Like, are there certain celebrations that you hold that that y'all enjoy? What things do you do together that foster tradition?
Yeah, so every time we read a work of literature, they select some lines from it to memorize, and then at the end of the book, we have recitation day, and it's like a party. And I usually put like something fun in this thing behind me so it's festive, and everyone brings their special beverage or a snack to class. And normally we ask them not to eat during class, and so we allow them to have special things that day. And so we do that. We also that's probably the most consistent tradition, like on a macro level. On the little micro levels in class, we have a liturgy for class time, so we open up with a prayer, or a quote or a blessing, and then we close with that as well. Um, and then we also have a way we read that's the same. So like we have a lot of traditions in like how we read a book. And no matter what book we're reading, it's the same pattern. And we teach that close reading pattern over and over again, apply to whatever it is, whether it be literature, history, philosophy, so on. And that I think those are, because it's online, that's the one downside, is that there's not, like when we were in person, we had a opening breakfast for the new high schoolers, and all the kids would stand. The returning kids would provide the breakfast for the new incoming high schoolers, and they would stand along the wall, and as the new high schoolers are coming in the classroom, they would recite a poem or a piece of advice or a quote to bless them and welcome them. And then we would all eat breakfast together. And that actually is really sad to me that we don't get to do that. It was one of my favorite traditions, and the students returning, they started to really love it. And so it makes me sad to not have that one. But there's other exciting things that happen, that we can still do online. But
Yes.
that
Yeah.
was a long answer. Sorry about
But
that.
no, that's a beautiful tradition. And what I was thinking, in terms of that, is how it sets the atmosphere, you know.
Mm,
And so when we're online, we just need to kind of it's a new thing. It's fairly new thing that
yeah.
we can need to just think about how to set the atmosphere online, in
Mm,
how beautiful that monastic tradition was that you brought in with the breakfast. You had the prayer, you had the welcoming, you had the service piece. And so all of those things, you had the feasting. So all of those things are all part of the monastic tradition that Scholé groups are about.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the classical tradition that is about. So all that's exciting. And I think we just need to be more creative and put
right.
our minds together
Yeah,
about
like
how to do
decorating
that.
behind me. Like
Yes.
I planned the last day of class, I plan on getting like 50 balloons and putting them behind me and just like playing it up, just having fun with it.
Yeah, yes, and you would let them do the same, right? Encourage them at
Right.
home to do the same thing,
Indeed.
to join together. So that's beautiful. And so as far as the arts, so let me backing up. So about you were talking about close reading. And so for those of us that aren't familiar with close reading, could you tell us a little bit about what that looks like and what close reading is
Yeah.
about?
So
And
I know
why?
people
Why do
use
we
the
close read?
term. Hmm?
And why we close read?
Yeah. So people, first of all, I should say that people use that term to mean specific things. And sometimes people use it to just mean general, a general like, oh, we're reading closely. So I don't mean it in the specific sense. Like there's a particular brand of close, like there, you can look it up. Like it's not like, it's just the way I communicate that we're reading contemplatively. We're slowing down. We are wanting to read. The whole point of it is, I think the best summary of it is we learn to come outside ourselves, enter the world the author has created, and hear him or her on their terms and respond to it. And so we learn how to do that. And that's a skill set. And it requires a certain environment, it requires a certain kind of pace at which we read, and it requires a certain kind of attention directed at specific things that allow that experience to actually unfold.
So does that mean that you probably read less books in
Oh,
your
yes.
group?
Most certainly.
Okay.
Most certainly.
Okay. Yeah. Because you know, it was not about checking boxes, really,
Right.
right? A lot of us think about, oh, okay, we can do all these things, but doing all these things doesn't mean that you have internalized and embodied all these things.
Right. And that's what we decided to prioritize is thoroughly coaching the skills over getting through a whole bunch of content just so we can say, oh yeah, we read that, but did you really read that? Or did you just kind of look at the words on the page?
Right.
So yeah.
And so, what is one of the ways that you encourage them to slow down to look at the words on the page?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't schedule too much reading during the week. Um, I mean, we just finished the Iliad, we're about to start the Odyssey, uh, 2 books or 2 chapters a week. I think there was 2 weeks we did 4, but for the most part, 2 chapters a week. And so they can read more slowly. Also, I teach them how to track different things. And as we go throughout the year, I begin to ask them to direct their attention to different things. Probably the base 3 questions we ask are John Muir Law's questions he uses in nature study, and it works in reading as well. What do I notice? What do I wonder? What does it remind me of? And that question, what do we notice, grows as what we coach grows throughout the year and over the years.
So, give us an example of what we would look at for something like that. What would
Yeah. So one example would be repetitions, noticing when things repeat. Um, and that's usually the first thing that I ask them to start noticing is notice when things repeat. And then also notice the connections you make in your mind and give voice to them because they may be significant. So jot them down. If you have questions that occur to you, notice your own thinking. That's huge because what a lot of students do is they won't notice their own thinking. They'll feel like, oh, that's dumb, or that might not be right, or they're just not attentive to it, so that just passes through their mind and they just keep going. And so I'm also asking them to notice what that is going on in their minds and capture it and give honor to it, because it actually may be incredibly useful. Like if you're making a connection, there's a reason, and maybe that was intentional on the author's part too. So it opens door for wonder and possibility and curiosity and exploration with the text.
That's great. That's great. And so, in doing that, you can even do that with young kids too. So it's not like
Yes,
just an older kid
absolutely.
skill. So we can teach our 3-year-old, what do you notice, all the way through whatever storybook it may be, to start
Mhm.
coaching that skill young. It's never too early, right?
Right, exactly, definitely.
So, so as far as your leadership of your group, what does the leadership of your group look like? As for how do you encourage your teachers? How do you encourage your families? And how do we bring that learning that we do as a community with our students into our homes and
Mhm.
into our core as a leadership team?
Yeah, so because we're online, moms aren't sitting around drinking coffee, hanging out together. So it does create a definite drop off vibe. So the way I stay connected with moms is by just making sure to prioritize communication with them. So they have my cell phone number, and they have my email, and we also have a Facebook group. And so there's multiple channels through which they can reach me. And I encourage them to text me, like I know myself and what I tend to respond to faster, and that's text. So I'm honest with myself about that, and then I just include that in my communication plan. And with my teachers, oh, I love that we do this. We started having staff meeting every 2 weeks, and so we meet and we share our wins, we share what we're struggling with, and we troubleshoot together. And then usually that evolves into some sort of mini training. And so it's just ongoing training every other week. And then at the beginning of the year, I do a more robust training. I also, of course, my teachers and parents in the academy have free access to any trainings that we do for Paideia Fellowship. So we have this Scholé Group, but then Paideia Fellowship, we do like coaching for teachers and stuff like that. And so I don't, I heard Dave Ramsey talk about this one time. He's like, your people, he was talking about, he's like, my people will always have access to all of my programs for free. Like, you should be pouring into your people and cultivating your people. And so that's important to me to, if you're a part of the Paideia family, you get access. And like you get access. So that and that works well for online too, to create those opportunities then where the moms can connect in other ways. And some of them choose to participate and some of them don't. And it's a free, non-judging space for everyone to be where they're at. But it's there if they want it. Now the teachers definitely are all in it, and it's fantastic. So a few things we do.
That's great, because so those things help feed your community and help help us grow as individuals,
Right.
because it's not just about, I mean, it is about our children and pouring into them, but we can't give them what we don't have. So
Right.
it's so important to foster that that growth within ourselves and that place within ourselves, that we are modeling that continual learning, and that learning is not a checkbox, that okay,
Mhm.
I've done that and now I'm done, I'm finished with 12th grade and I don't have to learn anymore, or college or whatever it is, right?
Right.
We're always learning, and so we have to model that for our kids. I think that is so important, because that's how they learn. They learn
Yeah.
by that model, right?
Hmm.
um, okay, so is there anything in particular that you want to share with parents or families or Scholé groups out there, or those that are looking to start a Scholé group?
Yeah, I would say if the impulse is in you, it's there for a reason, and follow it. Like, go for it. Not and there's so many ways that you can structure it. It doesn't have to cost money and be this like what we have going on. Like, I have a whole company. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, just if it's in you for a reason. And I think set your intention, because the mechanism of making it happen will follow if you set your intention. So if it's in you, set that intention and go for it. And then decide what you want and let it be okay. You don't have to do it like anyone else. You get to decide that. You get to be in a place of power and authenticity and decide that, and stand by your decisions. And that's when like the joy of all this comes, even though it's hard work. It comes and it's approachable and it's not scary. I think it's only scary when, because we're looking at something we don't know what's going to happen. But I think, like, I have found this to be true. If you set your intention and you're clear on what you want to create and your intention is there, it happens. It just happens.
We don't have to fear that unknown. We can have
No.
peace and
Right.
joy and excitement and anticipation in the
Mhm.
unknown, right? We just came through a
Mhm.
season right now of anticipation, right? And it's not scary. It's exciting and
Uh,
beautiful, and
yeah.
such fruit comes from those things if we allow it to grow. If we allow those seeds to plant and we allow it to grow. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Jennifer.
My
And
pleasure.
we want to extend our enthusiasm and our encouragement to all of you out there who are either looking for a group. If you don't have anybody nearby, join an online group. And if you find some like-minded people that are around you, then join together and bond together and just have some community and have that unity together in single-mindedness. So thank you all again, and we'll see you soon. If you have any questions, please, 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 you can check out our Facebook group. It's Contemplating Scholé on Facebook, and you can ask questions there. It's a free space to ask questions. And if you have further questions, contact us. We would love to answer them for you. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you soon.
Bye.